Imagine waking up one day to find that your work permit, the document that allows you to legally work and live in Canada, is about to expire along with millions of others. What would you do? Where would you go? This is the reality facing countless temporary workers across Canada right now in 2026. And if you or someone you know holds a work permit, the next few minutes could change everything. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share could be the difference between staying in Canada or having to leave. Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss crucial updates about Canadian immigration. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most significant immigration situations Canada has faced in recent years. We're talking about why millions of work permits are expiring in 2026 and what this means for temporary foreign workers, international students on post-graduation work permits, and anyone planning their future in Canada. This isn't just statistics and numbers. This is about real people, real families, and real dreams that hang in the balance. So let's get right into it. Canada has long been known as a land of opportunity, a place where people from all corners of the world come to build better lives, pursue careers, and contribute to one of the world's most diverse societies. Over the past several years, Canada has welcomed an unprecedented number of temporary foreign workers and international students. The Canadian government opened its doors wider than ever before, especially during the pandemic recovery period when labor shortages were at an all-time high. Businesses across the country, from farms in Alberta to tech companies in Toronto, from hospitality sectors in Vancouver to healthcare facilities in Montreal, all desperately needed workers. The solution was clear: bring in temporary foreign workers to fill these critical gaps. But here's where the situation gets complicated. Most work permits in Canada are issued for specific periods, typically ranging from 1 to 3 years depending on the program and circumstances. Many of the permits that were issued during the peak immigration years of 2021, 2022, and 2023 are now reaching their expiration dates. We're not talking about a few thousand permits here and there. We're talking about millions of work permits that are set to expire throughout 2026 and into 2027. This creates what immigration experts are calling a perfect storm, a convergence of expiring documents, changing immigration policies, and a labor market that's still trying to find its balance. Let's break down exactly why this is happening. First and foremost, the sheer volume of temporary residents admitted to Canada in recent years was extraordinary. The government set ambitious immigration targets and welcomed people through various streams, including the Temporary Foreign Worker Program, the International Mobility Program, and post-graduation work permits for international students who completed their studies at Canadian institutions. Each of these programs has specific validity periods built into them. A post-graduation work permit, for example, is typically valid for the length of your study program up to a maximum of 3 years. If you graduated in 2023 with a 3-year permit, that means your work authorization expires in 2026. Similarly, temporary foreign workers who came to Canada under labor market impact assessments often received permits tied to specific employers and job offers. These permits were issued with end dates that are now approaching rapidly. Agricultural workers, caregivers, skilled tradespeople, and professionals across dozens of sectors all received permits with expiration dates clustering around this period. The timing wasn't coordinated intentionally. It's simply the natural result of a concentrated period of high immigration meeting the standard validity periods of these permits. Another major factor contributing to this situation is the change in government policy. The Canadian government has been recalibrating its approach to temporary immigration. After years of expansion, there's now a push to reduce the number of temporary residents and focus more selectively on permanent immigration pathways. Immigration Refugees and Citizenship Canada announced plans to reduce the proportion of temporary residents from approximately 6.2% of the population to 5% over the next few years. This might sound like a small percentage difference, but in real numbers, it represents hundreds of thousands of people whose status in Canada becomes uncertain. The cap on international student permits is another piece of this puzzle. The government announced significant restrictions on study permits starting in 2024. which has a downstream effect on post-graduation work permits. Fewer study permits issued today means fewer post-graduation work permits in the future. But it also means the government is being more cautious about renewals and extensions for existing permit holders. The message from Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada has been clear. Temporary immigration programs are meant to be temporary, and there needs to be better management of the transition between temporary and permanent status. Now let's talk about what this means for the people actually holding these expiring permits. For many temporary foreign workers, their entire lives are in Canada. They've built careers, established homes, enrolled their children in schools, made friends, and integrated into their communities. The thought of having to leave Canada because a work permit expires is devastating. But the reality is that without a valid work permit, you cannot legally work in Canada, and without legal work authorization, maintaining your life here becomes nearly impossible. The stress and uncertainty are enormous. Workers are facing critical decisions about their futures. Do they apply for extensions and hope they're approved? Do they try to transition to permanent residence if they're eligible? Do they start looking for opportunities back in their home countries? Do they explore options in other provinces or territories that might have different immigration streams? These aren't easy questions, and the answers depend on individual circumstances, occupation, work experience, language skills, education, and a dozen other factors. For international students who graduated and are working on post-graduation work permits, the situation is particularly challenging. Many came to Canada with the understanding that studying here would be a pathway to permanent residence. They invested tens of thousands of dollars in their education, worked part-time jobs to support themselves, and after graduation, found employment in their field. Now, as their post-graduation work permits near expiration, they're discovering that pathways to permanent residence aren't as straightforward as they hoped. Express entry scores have been fluctuating, provincial nominee programs have their own criteria and processing times, and competition for permanent residence spots has intensified. The economic implications of millions of expiring work permits are significant for Canada as well. Many sectors still face labor shortages, despite recent economic slowdowns. Healthcare, agriculture, construction, hospitality, and technology sectors rely heavily on temporary foreign workers. If large numbers of these workers have to leave Canada because their permits aren't renewed, businesses will struggle to fill positions. At the same time, the government is trying to ensure that Canadian citizens and permanent residents have access to jobs and aren't displaced by temporary workers. It's a delicate balancing act between economic needs and social policy objectives. So what are the options for people whose work permits are expiring? The first and most important step is to check your permit expiration date right now. Don't wait until the last minute. Work permits typically have the expiry date printed clearly on the document. Once you know your expiration date, you need to start planning immediately. If your permit expires within the next 6 months, you should already be taking action. One option is to apply for a work permit extension. This is possible in certain circumstances, particularly if you have a valid job offer from a Canadian employer and meet the requirements of the program you're currently under. For temporary foreign worker program participants, your employer may need to obtain a new labor market impact assessment, which involves proving that they've tried to hire Canadians or permanent residents for the position, but couldn't find suitable candidates. This process takes time, often several months, so early application is crucial. Another pathway is transitioning to permanent residence. Canada offers several programs for this, including Express Entry, provincial nominee programs, the Atlantic Immigration Program, and others. Express Entry manages applications for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, Federal Skilled Trades Program, and Canadian Experience class. If you've been working in Canada in a skilled occupation, you may have accumulated the work experience needed to qualify. The Canadian Experience class is specifically designed for people who have worked in Canada and is often the most accessible route for temporary foreign workers and post-graduation work permit holders. Provincial nominee programs are another excellent option. Each province and territory has its own immigration streams targeting workers with specific skills or experience in occupations that are in demand in that region. Ontario, British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and the Atlantic provinces all have active programs. Some of these streams are aligned with Express Entry, giving you additional points and a guaranteed invitation to apply. Others are base programs that operate independently. Researching which provinces have streams matching your profile is essential. The key challenge with permanent residence applications is timing. Processing times vary considerably depending on the program and current application volumes. Some applications are processed in 6 months, others take over a year. If your work permit is expiring soon and you haven't already started your permanent residence application, you might find yourself in a difficult position. This is where having a backup plan becomes critical. Maintain status is an important concept to understand. If you apply to renew or extend your work permit before your current permit expires, you can legally remain in Canada under maintained status while waiting for a decision. This means you can continue working under the same conditions as your previous permit even after the expiration date, as long as your extension application was submitted on time. However, maintained status only applies if you submit your application before your permit expires. Even 1 day late means you lose this benefit and could be required to stop working and potentially leave Canada. For those who aren't eligible for work permit extensions or permanent residence at this time, there are still some options worth considering. You might be able to switch to a different type of permit, such as a visitor record if you want to stay in Canada temporarily without working while you figure out your next steps. Some people choose to leave Canada temporarily and apply for a new work permit from outside the country, though this comes with risks and no guarantee of approval. Others explore opportunities in different provinces or territories where they might qualify for regional immigration programs. It's also worth mentioning that marriage or common law relationships with Canadian citizens or permanent residents open up spousal sponsorship pathways. While this shouldn't be the primary reason for a relationship, it is a legitimate permanent residence route for those who are genuinely in committed partnerships with Canadians. The spousal sponsorship process has its own requirements, processing times, and considerations, but it's separate from economic immigration streams and can be pursued simultaneously. One of the biggest mistakes people make is waiting too long to take action. Immigration processes in Canada involve significant paperwork, documentation, fees, and waiting periods. If you start the process when your permit has only a month left before expiration, you're setting yourself up for stress and potential problems. The best time to start planning your next steps is at least 6 months to a year before your permit expires. This gives you time to gather documents, improve your language test scores if needed, gain additional work experience, save money for application fees, and explore all available options. Professional immigration advice can be invaluable during this time. Regulated Canadian immigration consultants and immigration lawyers specialize in navigating these complex situations. They can assess your specific circumstances, identify which programs you might qualify for, help you prepare strong applications, and guide you through the process. While there are costs involved in hiring professionals, the investment often pays off through higher success rates and avoiding costly mistakes. Be cautious of immigration fraud and only work with authorized representatives who are members of the College of Immigration and Citizenship Consultants. Language proficiency is another critical factor in many immigration pathways. Express entry and provincial nominee programs typically require language test results from approved testing agencies like IELTS, CELPIP for English, or TF for French. Your language scores can significantly impact your competitiveness for permanent residence. If your current scores are low, investing time in improving your English or French and retaking the tests could make the difference between qualifying for a program or not. Many community colleges and settlement agencies offer language training programs specifically designed for immigration purposes. Financial planning is equally important. Immigration applications come with fees, language tests cost money, educational credential assessments have fees, and you may need to pay for professional services. Additionally, if you're transitioning between permits or waiting for permanent residence decisions, you need to ensure you have enough savings to support yourself and any dependents. Creating a budget and saving specifically for immigration purposes can reduce stress and give you more options. The emotional and mental health aspects of dealing with expiring work permits shouldn't be underestimated. The uncertainty, stress, and fear of potentially having to leave Canada can be overwhelming. It's important to take care of your mental health during this time. Talk to friends, family, or professional counselors about what you're experiencing. Connect with others in similar situations through community organizations or online forums. Remember that you're not alone in this, and many people have successfully navigated these challenges before you. Staying informed about policy changes is crucial. Canadian immigration policy can change, sometimes with little notice. Following official government communications from Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, subscribing to reliable immigration news sources, and staying connected with your industry associations can help you stay ahead of changes that might affect you. What's true today might change tomorrow, so continuous awareness is important. For those who ultimately cannot extend their stay in Canada through work permits or permanent residence, leaving doesn't have to mean giving up on Canada forever. You can explore future opportunities to return, whether through new work permits, study programs, or immigration pathways that might become available. Maintaining your professional network in Canada, keeping your skills current, and staying aware of Canadian immigration trends could open doors in the future. So here we are in 2026 facing this unprecedented situation where millions of work permits are expiring. It's a complex challenge created by the intersection of past immigration expansion, current policy recalibration, and the natural expiration cycles of temporary permits. For individuals affected, it's a time of uncertainty, but also opportunity. The key is to be proactive, informed, and strategic in your approach. Check your permit expiration date today, understand your options, start your applications early, seek professional help if needed, and don't give up on your Canadian dream without exploring every available avenue. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this deep dive into why millions of work permits are expiring in Canada has given you the information and perspective you need. Whether you're directly affected or you know someone who is, sharing this knowledge can make a real difference. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with anyone who might benefit from this information. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you stay updated on the latest Canadian immigration news and guidance. Drop your questions and experiences in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you and help however I can. Until next time, stay informed, stay prepared, and keep working toward your goals in Canada.